This is the fifth video in the series of videos on cleaning up and updating your school's information in Infinite Campus. The purpose of this video is to show you how to update your course and section information for courses that departmentalize at a grade level. Before we get started, you will want to have the following information in front of you: a list of grade levels that will be departmentalizing, a list of subjects within a grade level that will be departmentalized, and you'll need to know which courses teachers are teaching and whose homeroom classes they will be teaching. The grade levels and courses that are departmentalized varies from school to school. If your school does not departmentalize for any courses at any grade level, then you can skip this video. Otherwise, follow along with me. For the purpose of this video, I've selected 3rd grade. The courses in 3rd grade that departmentalize are social studies, science, and language. I've made a list for social studies that outlines which teacher will be teaching social studies and the classes to which she'll be teaching it. So let's look at this chart. Baker will be teaching social studies to her own homeroom students, which is section 5, and Ms. Baker will also be teaching social studies to Brandt's homeroom students, section 2. Ms. Hall will be teaching social studies to her own homeroom students, section 3, as well as to Ms. Hawkins' homeroom students, section 4. The TBD teacher, if you've watched our previous videos, is the teacher that we've not yet hired. We know we have a new teacher for 3rd grade, but we don't know who that person will be. Our TBD teacher will be teaching social studies to her own homeroom students, section 1. Garcia is the SPED teacher. She's been given section 6, and she'll be teaching social studies to the students who were assigned to her caseload. I made a similar chart for science. At the 3rd grade level, teaching science is Miss Hawkins, Miss Brandt, and the teacher that we've not yet hired, the one I've called my TBD teacher. Miss Hawkins will be teaching science to her own homeroom students, section 4, to Miss Hall's homeroom students, section 3. Miss Brandt will be teaching science to her own homeroom students, section 2, and to Miss Baker's homeroom students, section 5. Our TBD teacher will be teaching science to her own homeroom students, section 1. Garcia is our SPED teacher, and assuming she has a caseload of students assigned to her, she'll be teaching science to section 6, which is her section. You will want to have charts similar to the ones I've just shown before you get started in Infinite Campus. Let's go ahead now and see how this will look when we're signed into Campus and making our changes. When you sign into Campus, the first thing you want to do is make sure you're in the year for your upcoming school year. At the time we're doing this video, our upcoming school year is 2017-18. You have your 2 tabs, Index and Search. Click on the Search tab, and you want to make sure the search is selected for course and section, and click Go. I'm going to start by focusing on 3rd grade social studies. I'm going to click on my Social Studies 3 course. The information you see here in the sections is carried over from last year. So we're going to start and make our changes. Section 1 is a section that belongs to our TBD homeroom teacher who is yet to be hired. I'm going to click on section 1. And I know that our teacher who will be hired, our TBD teacher, is going to be teaching social studies to her own homeroom students. So let's make our change. When I click on section 1, I want to come over to Staff History tab. Miss Baker will not be teaching social studies to our TBD teacher. So I'm going to click on Miss Baker, and delete her as our primary teacher. At this point, because we don't know who will be hired for this position, I can't select a primary teacher. However, as soon as that teacher is hired, you'll want to come to Social Studies, Section 1, and select that teacher as the primary teacher. What I can do is click the Section tab to the left of Staff History, and as we've done in previous videos, our teacher display name, I'm going to fill in TBD. I'm going to update the room number. I know that our new hire, whoever it may be, will be in room 102. So let's update that. I can scroll down and make sure that Social Studies is selected all the way across for all quarters. And I'm going to click Save. So our new hire, our TBD teacher, will be teaching Social Studies to her own homeroom, and her homeroom section is Section 1. Now let's go to Section 2 of Social Studies. Section 2 belongs to Miss Brandt's homeroom. If I scroll up here to Homeroom 3, you'll see that Section 2 is Miss Brandt's group of students. Let's go back down to Social Studies, Section 2. And I need to look at my chart to see who will be teaching Miss Brandt's students for Social Studies. Miss Baker will be teaching Social Studies to Miss Brandt's homeroom students. So in this case, I'll click on my Staff History tab, and I do not need to make any changes to my primary teacher because Miss Baker will be the primary teacher. I click on the Section tab to the left of Staff History, and in order to keep up with which homeroom teacher these group of students belong to, just like we did for PE and music, in parentheses, I put the homeroom teacher's name so that I would know that. This is going to be very helpful when we start working with students and putting the students into classes. I can make the distinction HR for homeroom if I want to. So Miss Baker will be teaching it to Miss Brandt's homeroom. Miss Brandt's homeroom section is Section 2. The room number is 103. Okay, so we're assuming that the teacher is going to travel, not the students. Scroll down and make sure Social Studies is checked all the way across, and it should be by default. Let's click Save. And you'll notice that the HR that I put after Brandt is not showing. I just need to do a refresh, and I can do that by clicking on my name. You may not want to refresh after each change. That's up to you. Scroll back down to Social Studies 3, and you see now the distinction that I made. Let's click on Section 3. Section 3 belongs to Miss Hall's students. So if I look at the chart sitting in front of me, I see that Miss Hall is teaching Social Studies, and she's going to be teaching it to her own homeroom students. So click on our Staff History tab. Let's delete Miss Baker as the primary teacher. As long as it's before the official start of the school year, you do not have to put any end dates or start dates. The new primary teacher is Miss Hall. I'm going to select her name from our list. For the role, you select Teacher. No start date is required, so I click Save. If I click the Section tab to the left of Staff History, I see that Miss Hall is the teacher display name. I don't have to put homeroom next to this because we know that Miss Hall's homeroom students do belong in Section 3. Let's update the room number. Click Save. Our changes will be reflected once we refresh. Let's continue to Section 4. Section 4 is Miss Hawkins' homeroom and students. So So when I click on section 4 and go to staff history, I need to make a change here. Miss Hall will be teaching social studies to Miss Hawkins' students. So let's take Miss Baker out as the primary teacher. Click New Primary Teacher. Select Miss Hall. Click the role of teacher and save. Let's click the section tab to the left of staff history, and Miss Hall filled in here automatically for our teacher display name. I'm going to shorten that to K Hall, and in parentheses so that I can quickly see which group of students we're talking about, I'm going to put Hawkins name HR next to that, because these are Miss Hawkins students in section 4. For the room number, I want to pick 105 and save. Next, we'll click on section 5. Section 5 is Miss Baker's group of students. According to my chart, Miss Baker will be teaching social studies to her own homeroom students. So if I go to staff history, I don't have to make a change to my primary teacher. That will be Miss Baker. I click on my section tab. Okay, her name is in the display name. I don't have to put HR after that. And Miss Baker has moved to room 104. So I update that information and click Save. The final section is section 6, Miss Garcia. She will be teaching social studies to her caseload of students, so I don't need to make any changes there. Before I move on to science, I want to do a quick refresh to make sure everything is good. Social studies, teaching section 1 is our TBD teacher, and that is her section. Teaching Miss Brandt's homeroom will be Miss Baker. She's a social studies teacher for Miss Brandt, and I have Brandt HR so that I can remember that section 2 is Miss Brandt's students. Miss Hall will be teaching social studies to her own section. Section 4 is Miss Hawkins' group of students, and Miss Hall will be teaching social studies to Miss Hawkins' homeroom. Miss Baker is section 5, and she'll be teaching social studies to her own group of students. So everything looks good with social studies 3. It's time to move to science 3. Let's click on science. Looking at my chart for science that I made before I started working on my updates, I know that section 1 is our TBD teacher who's yet to be hired. I'm going to click on section 1, and our TBD teacher will be teaching science to her own students. So I'm going to click my staff history tab, delete Baker as the primary teacher. I can't select my new primary teacher for our TBD teacher because they've not yet been hired. Once they are, we need to come back and make this selection. Let's click the section tab to the left of staff history. I'm going to wipe this out and put TBD. Our TBD teacher is in room 102, so let's update our room number. I'm just going to make sure that science is selected all the way across. Click Save. I'm going to refresh so I can see my changes as I go. That's a personal preference. Let's click section 2, and looking at my chart, I know that Miss Brandt will be teaching science to section 2. I'm going to click on staff history, delete Baker, select the new primary teacher, Brandt, select teacher for the role, and save. I need to click the section tab to the left. For my teacher display name, I'm going to abbreviate her first name. Because this is Brandt's homeroom section and she's teaching science to her own students. I don't need to put anything in parentheses. I do need to update the room number. Nope, that's 103. So click Save and Go. Clicking Go seems to refresh my data. Click on Section 3. This is Miss Hall's homeroom section, and Miss Hawkins will be teaching science to Miss Hall's students. So click on Staff History, delete Baker, add a new primary teacher. It's Miss Hawkins. Select Teacher for the role and save. Click Section tab to the left. I'm going to abbreviate the teacher display name, and in parentheses I'm going to put Hall Homeroom because Section 3 is Hall's homeroom students. The room number is 101 for Miss Hall, and save. I'm going to click Go to refresh. And let's click on Section 4. Miss Hawkins is going to be teaching science to Section 4. Section 4 is her own group of students. So let's click Staff History tab, delete Baker as a primary teacher, select New Primary Teacher, Hawkins, Teacher, save. Click the Section tab to the left. Since I abbreviated the teacher display name in the other sections, I'll do the same here. Section 4 is Miss Hawkins' section of students, so I'm only going to come here now and update my room number to 105 and save. Refresh. Let's click Section 5. Miss Brandt is going to be teaching science to Section 5. Section 5 is Miss Baker's homeroom group. But right now Miss Baker is assigned as the primary teacher for science, and that's not the case. So click the Staff History tab, delete Baker as the primary teacher, select the new primary teacher, Brandt, select the role, teacher, and save. Click the Section tab to the left. I'm going to abbreviate her name, and this is Baker's homeroom. And Baker's homeroom is 104. So save. Miss Garcia is going to be teaching science to her caseload of students in the SPED resource room, so that's all good. Let's click Go to refresh our final changes, and let's just go through and make sure the information we have is correct. Section 1 is our to be determined teacher. She is teaching science to her own homeroom students. Section 2 is Brandt's homeroom, and Miss Brandt will be teaching science to her own homeroom students. Section 3 is Miss Hall's homeroom group of students, but Miss Hawkins will be teaching science to Miss Hall's students, and Miss Hall's room number is 101. Section 4 is Miss Hawkins' homeroom group of students. She will be teaching science to her own homeroom, and that room number is 105. Section 5 is Miss Baker's homeroom, but Miss Brandt will be teaching science to Miss Baker's students. Miss Baker's room number is 104. So everything looks good. Now, third grade in the school I'm demoing from also departmentalizes for language, but I'm not going to take you through those changes. If you have any questions as you go through this process, please contact your school's ITS. In video number 6, we'll be looking at what you need to do if you need to add an additional section or homeroom class to a grade level.